Hi and welcome back to this free cyber panel tutorial for beginners. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to deploy our server, and I will start by deploying one server which is for the Windows tutorial, because I first of all want to do a tutorial for the Windows guys. And if you're following along with me on a Windows computer, you're going to see how you can log in using PATI, set up SSH, and then after that I'm going to do the Linux tutorial for the Linux guys and the Mac guys using terminal. But first I'm going to start with Windows. So in this video, let's deploy our server. And if you don't have an account, go ahead and use the affiliate link in the description below. You will get $100 credit. I hope the offer is still available, so just check out and see if it is still available. I will log into my account. So I'll just click there to deploy an instance. We need to choose a server type. You can choose cloud compute or high frequency, but I suggest that you start with cloud compute, because first of all, I would advise you to just follow along with me, set up the server just as a sample, install CyberPanel, run an actual website, change the DNS settings just to test CyberPanel to see how it works. And once you get a hang of it and you've followed with me throughout, you can delete the server that we're creating now, and then you can start a fresh server that you can actually use on your production. Okay, so first of all, just follow along with me. So what's the difference between cloud compute and high frequency? Cloud compute is just the same as this, but this has a higher power than this, but it's just slightly higher power, but you can still use this. Most people actually use this and the performance is still great. But if on a production, if you want better performance, you can try this one. So I'm going to choose cloud compute. You can choose a region, Seattle, or let me choose, where is Chicago? I can choose Chicago. So if you want to know how to choose your location, so let's just take this small detour to see how you can choose a location for yourself. So if you come here under features, data center locations, you can test different locations just to see which location will give you the fastest speeds. So it's important for you to know whether you want to base the speed off of where you are or off of where your visitors are. So if you're in the same place as your visitors, you can just test different regions to see which region has better performance for you. So if I come here, I can test Miami just to see the speeds that I will get based off of where I am. So you can also test based off of where your visitors are. So where your visitors are, if you're not in the same location, you can just use a VPN. So if you're not in the same location as your intended website visitors, you can use a VPN to emulate their location and then come here and test. So let's say I want to test Miami. You can test different locations here. So let's say I want to test Miami. I can just click on that IP address and then just run the test with the default setting here. And you can see that this is the amount of time it takes for everything to happen for me, 94 milliseconds. So if you want to test a different region, let me just refresh the page. Maybe I want to test Atlanta. So I will select this. I will click there to select that IP, and then I will run the test. So you can see this one is much higher, so it's not a good location for me. And let me try to reload again, and this time around let me test Seattle, and then I will click the link. I will click this IP address and then run the test again. And you can see that this is giving me a much better result than all the others. So this is a better location for me. Okay, so just do something similar to find the best location for you. The lower the time, the better for you. Okay, so you've seen how you can select a region. So for me, I'm just going to test Chicago because it's for demonstration purposes. And then throughout this tutorial, of course, we want to use CentOS 8 to install CyberPanel. So you can also use CentOS 7, which is more stable with most applications right now. It's more stable with more applications than CentOS 8. Most applications currently support CentOS 7. So we're going to choose CentOS 8. And server size, let's choose $5 monthly. And let's just check all these features. We want that, and we want that as well. You can also enable automatic backups if that's something you want. We don't have any startup scripts to be run with our server, and we don't have SSH keys. We're going to set up SSH keys later on. And then server, hostname, and label. Give this server a name that is, give it a name of a domain name. Give it a fully qualified domain name, and this will enable you to send mail. If you don't use a fully qualified domain name here, you're going to have a problem sending mail. So this is just a sample, so I will use a sample of this with bizanosa.com. But this is not our final server. I'll actually delete this and create another one once I'm done with this Windows part. So there you go, $5. Just confirm that everything is as you selected, and then we're going to deploy the server. So the server is currently being installed, being set up for us. If we click on it, you can see the IP address that we've been given, the password. So just give it some time. There you go. We've been given an IP. We've been given a password, user, root. We're going to disable root user at some point, and we're also going to disable password login at some point, which is a good security feature that you need to have on your server. So in this video, you've seen how you can set up, how you can deploy your server. And if you're on Windows, the next video is for you. I will show you how you can log into your server using Putty. We're going to download Putty, install Putty, and see how you can log into your server. I will see you in the next video. So in the last video, I did deploy a server. And in this video, if you're using Windows, let's see how you can log into your server using Putty. So Putty is what you're going to use to SSH into your server and then set it up. Everything you're going to do on your server, you're going to use Putty. Let's go to Google and we're going to search for Putty. Just Google Putty. And just click here, download Putty from putty.org. And we want to download Putty. So I will click here where it says download Putty, and make sure you're downloading it. You're downloading it from this website. And I'm going to choose this because this has everything we need. And we need Putty, and we also need PuttyGen. So PuttyGen is what we're going to use. This one here, PuttyGen is what we're going to use to generate SSH keys in the upcoming videos. So let's download this. I will save. Let me open the location where it was downloaded, and this is where it was. I can just double click on it. I know I already have a version installed, and this is probably a much later version. So let me run and see what's going to happen next. So it's already installed on my computer, but I'll just click on repair and then finish. All right, so we have Putty installed. So the next thing, let's see how we can log into the server. So I will go and open up Putty. Let me search for Putty. And I need my IP address. So coming back here, just click there to copy your IP address to log in via Putty. Here under hostname, put that, and the port is default 22, and make sure that is SSH. And of course, we want to save it so that you don't have to type in the IP address every single time. So let's just call this new Windows. So once you give it a name, click here to save. And the next time, if we close Putty and we come back and open Putty, we can just double click on it and it will open up our server for us. Okay, so it's telling us that this is a new server and we don't recognize it, but you know this is a server we just created, so it can't be anything malicious. So I'll just click yes, and then log in as root. For now, the only user we have is root, so we're going to log in as root. Enter. It's going to ask you for the root password. Then copy the password, and let's go back into party. Once you copy the password, now if you want to paste into party on Windows, I think normally, since I can't see the password, I'll just do by trial and error. And now I'm just going to click on the right button of my mouse to see if that has pasted it in. Enter. And yes, so if you want to paste into party, you can paste in using the right click on your keyboard that will paste in. And if you want to copy, just select everything and then left click, that will copy, and you can right click and it will paste in the items in there. So in this video, you've seen how you can log into your server using party. So since we're on CentOS 8, let's just update it before we do anything else. So let's do DNF update to make sure we update our server. So DNF update, this will update the server. It will check all the links to make sure that we have updates, and then it's going to download and install the updates. And if we add -y, this is going to ensure that it doesn't ask us if we want to actually install the updates. This will bypass that and it will automatically install any updates which are there. So let's just check if the updates. Okay, so the update is complete. So I don't like the font, it's too tiny and I'll have to zoom in. So I'm going to change the font for this just for demonstration, to make demonstration easier for me. And if I come here under appearance, I can change the font, and let me use this. It looks like a nice font, and I will use 16, font size of 16. Click OK, apply. And this is much easier for demonstration purposes. So that's pretty much it for this video. In this video, you've seen how you can log into your new server using party. So the next step is for us to create a new user, and we're going to do that in the next video. Hi, and welcome back to this free CyberPanel tutorial for beginners. Hi, and welcome back to this free CyberPanel tutorial for beginners. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to deploy our server, and I will start by deploying one server which is for the Windows tutorial, because I first of all want to do a tutorial for the Windows guys. And if you're following along with me on a Windows computer, you're going to see how you can log in using party, set up SSH, and then after that I'm going to do the Linux tutorial for the Linux guys and the Mac guys using terminal. But first I'm going to start with Windows. So in this video, let's deploy our server. And if you don't have an account, go ahead and use the affiliate link in the description below. You will get a $100 credit. I hope the offer is still available. So just check out and see if it is still available. I will log into my account. So I'll just click there to deploy an instance. We need to choose a server type. You can choose cloud compute or high frequency, but I suggest that you start with cloud compute, because first of all, I would advise you to just follow along with me, set up the server just as a sample, install CyberPanel, run an actual website, change the DNS settings just to test CyberPanel to see how it works. And once you get a hang of it and you've followed with me throughout, you can delete the server that we're creating now, and then you can start a fresh server that you can actually use on your production. Okay, so first of all, just follow along with me. So what's the difference between cloud compute and high frequency? Cloud compute is just the same as this, but this has a higher power than this, but it's just slightly higher power, but you can still use this. Most people actually use this and the performance is still great. But if on a production, if you want better performance, you can try this one. So I'm going to choose cloud compute. You can choose a region, Seattle, or let me choose, where is Chicago? I can choose Chicago. So if you want to know how to choose your location, So let's just take this small detour to see how you can choose a location for yourself. So if you come here under features, data center locations, you can test different locations just to see which location will give you the fastest speeds. So it's important for you to know whether you want to base the speed off of where you are or off of where your visitors are. So if you're in the same place as your visitors, you can just test different regions to see which region has better performance for you. So if I come here, I can test Miami just to see the speeds that I will get based off of where I am. So you can also test based off of where your visitors are. So where your visitors are, if you're not in the same location, you can just use a VPN. So if you're not in the same location as your intended website visitors, you can use a VPN to emulate their location and then come here and test. So let's say I want to test Miami. You can test different locations here. So let's say I want to test Miami. I can just click on that IP address and then just run the test with the default setting here. And you can see that this is the amount of time it takes for everything to happen for me, 94 milliseconds. So if I want to test a different region, let me just refresh the page. Maybe I want to test Atlanta. So I will select this. I will click there to select that IP and then I will run the test. So you can see this one is much higher, so it's not a good location for me. And let me try to reload again, and this time around let me test Seattle, and then I will click the link. I will click this IP address and then run the test again. And you can see that this is giving me a much better result than all the others. So this is a better location for me. Okay, so just do something similar to find the best location for you. The lower the time, the better for you. Okay, so you've seen how you can select a region. So for me, I'm just going to test Chicago because it's for demonstration purposes. And then throughout this tutorial, of course, we want to use CentOS 8 to install Cyber Panel. So you can also use CentOS 7, which is more stable with most applications right now. It's more stable with more applications than CentOS 8. Most applications currently support CentOS 7. So we're going to choose CentOS 8. And server size, let's choose $5 monthly. And let's just check all these features. We want that, and we want that as well. You can also enable automatic backups if that's something you want. We don't have any startup scripts to be run with our server, and we don't have SSH keys. We're going to set up SSH keys later on. And then server hostname and label. Give this server a name that is, give it a name of a domain name. Give it a fully qualified domain name, and this will enable you to send mail. If you don't use a fully qualified domain name here, you're going to have a problem sending mail. So this is just a sample, so I will use a sample of this with bizanosa.com. But this is not our final server. I'll actually delete this and create another one once I'm done with this Windows part. So there you go, $5. Just confirm that everything is as you selected. And then we're going to deploy the server. So the server is currently being installed, being set up for us. If we click on it, you can see the IP address that we've been given, the password. So just give it some time. There you go. We've been given an IP. We've been given a password, user, root. We're going to disable root user at some point, and we're also going to disable password login at some point, which is a good security feature that you need to have on your server. So in this video, you've seen how you can set up, how you can deploy your server. And if you're on Windows, the next video is for you. I will show you how you can log into your server using Putty. We're going to download Putty, install Putty, and see how you can log into your server. I will see you in the next video. So in the last video, I did deploy a server. And in this video, if you're using Windows, let's see how you can log into your server using Putty. So Putty is what you're going to use to SSH into your server and then set it up everything you're going to do on your server, you're going to use Party. Let's go to Google and we're going to search for Party. Just Google Party. And just click here, download Party from party.org. And we want to download Party. So I will click here where it says download Party, and make sure you're downloading it. You're downloading it from this website. And I'm going to choose this because this has everything we need. And we need Party, and we also need PartyGen. So PartyGen is what we're going to use. This one here, PartyGen is what we're going to use to generate SSH keys in the upcoming videos. So let's download this. I will save. Let me open the location where it was downloaded, and this is where it was. I can just double click on it. I know I already have a version installed, and this is probably a much later version. So let me run and see what's going to happen next. So it's already installed on my computer, but I'll just click on repair and then finish. All right, so we have Party installed. So the next thing, let's see how we can log into the server. So I will go and open up Party. Let me search for Party. And I need my IP address. So coming back here, just click there to copy your IP address to log in via Party. Here under hostname, put that, and the port is default 22, and make sure that is SSH. And of course, we want to save it so that you don't have to type in the IP address every single time. So let's just call this new Windows. So once you give it a name, click here to save. And the next time, if we close Party and we come back and open Party, we can just double click on it, and it will open up our server for us. Okay, so it's telling us that this is a new server and we don't recognize it, but you know this is a server we just created, so it can't be anything malicious. So I'll just click yes, and then log in as root. For now, the only user we have is root, so we're going to log in as root. Enter. It's going to ask you for the root password, then copy the password, and let's go back into Party. Once you copy the password, now if you want to paste into Party on Windows, I think normally, since I can't see the password, I'll just do by trial and error. And now I'm just going to click on the right button of my mouse to see if that has pasted it in. Enter. And yes, so if you want to paste into Party, you can paste in using the right click on your keyboard that will paste in. And if you want to copy, just select everything and then left click, that will copy, and you can right click and it will paste in the items in there. So in this video, you've seen how you can log into your server using Party. So since we're on CentOS 8, let's just update it before we do anything else. So let's do DNF update to make sure we update our server. So DNF update, this will update the server. It will check all the links to make sure that we have updates, and then it's going to download and install the updates. And if we add -y, this is going to ensure that it doesn't ask us if we want to actually install the updates. This will bypass that, and it will automatically install any updates which are there. So let's just check if the updates. Okay, so the update is complete. So I don't like the font. It's too tiny and I'll have to zoom in. So I'm going to change the font for this just for demonstration, to make demonstration easier for me. And if I come here under appearance, I can change the font, and let me use this. It looks like a nice font, and I will use 16, font size of 16. Click OK, apply. and this is much easier for demonstration purposes. So that's pretty much it for this video. In this video, you've seen how you can log into your new server using Putty. So the next step is for us to create a new user, and we're going to do that in the next video. We're going to create a new pseudo user, and then we are going to set up SSH for that user so that they can only log in using SSH keys, and we're going to do this using Putty and PuttyGen. So that's a good security feature. And then we're going to disable root login, and we're going to disable password login, and that will be the end of this part with Windows, and then we can do a demonstration for Linux. So in this video, we're going to add a user with sudo privileges on CentOS 8. If you're on a production server, you should always avoid using root, and therefore, you're going to need to create a new user, and then you're going to give this user sudo privileges so that they can run root commands. At some point, we're also going to disable the root user from logging in, and we're also going to disable login via password. But for now, let us create a new user and then add the sudo privileges to that user. You can find all the commands for this if you come to bizanosa.com. You can search for CentOS 8, add new user, and you can click on the results for this, or you can just go into the description below and click on this. Click on the link that will bring you to this, and you can follow along with all these commands here. First things first, let's log into Putty. And we already have the server saved here. So I'm just going to double click on it. And then I will log in as root. And I will come back here to get the password. I will copy the password from there. And then right click to paste into Putty. So when you're pasting passwords or typing your password, you won't be able to see it. I'll press enter. And you can follow along with this just to see how to do it. So let me add a new user. So I will add the new user, and then let's change the password for the new user. So input a strong password, use mixtures of alphanumerics, capitals, and special characters. Retype the password. Alright, so the new user has been created. The next step is to add them into the wheel group so that they can have the sudo privileges. So if you come here, you can just copy that from here, and it will be added for them. So let me just copy this. I don't want to type. Copy, and then I will put that here. So on Putty, I can just right click to paste user mod AG and the name of the user. So then the good thing about Putty, I can select that, and then once I select it, I can just right click and it will get pasted for me there, and then I'll press enter. All right, so as soon as I do this, now this user can use sudo privileges. So let's just test that, and we can test that by switching to the new user, and we do that using su. Now we are logged in as the new user. We've just switched to the new user. Let's see if we can use sudo. We can use the sudo command. And the first time you use sudo, you're going to need to type in your password. So type in the password for the user, and this is the user that you created. Alright, so you can see our server is up to date, and we did not receive any error telling us that, oh, you don't have the privilege, you're not in the sudoers list. So if that works for you, then you know now you are a sudo user and you can run all commands as root instead of using the root user. So in the next video, we're going to see how to set up SSH keys so that you can log in via SSH, and that will improve our security. And then after that, we're going to disable the root login and the password logins. So in this video, you've seen how to create a new user and add them to the sudo group. I showed you how to add a new user with sudo privileges, and we were using party. So in this video, let's see how we can set up SSH keys to log into our server. That will improve security for our server, especially once we disable root login and we also disable password login. So this video is intended for you if you're a Windows user and you want to use party for managing your server. I did something like that a while back for CentOS 7, and I'm going to use the same steps that I used for CentOS 7 for my CentOS 8 server. So I'm just going to search for that here, and I can search for CentOS 7. And I know the article when I see it. Yeah, this is the one, Valtra tutorial. So I'm going to scroll all the way down here. Okay, so we are from here. We want to add SSH keys. From where it says that you're going to add SSH keys. So we need to open PartyGen. So you saw me install Party, and we downloaded Party and installed Party, which has everything we need. Okay, so if you didn't watch that video, go back a step and then watch that video. So in this video, let's generate our SSH keys and start using them. So to generate your SSH keys, you're going to need to open PartyGen. What you need is a private key and a public key. The private key will be on your computer, and that's the one you're going to use to log in via Party. And then the public key, we're going to add that to our server, and then once it is on our server, we can use the private key on our computer to log in with that. Right, and you're going to see how to do all that in this video. So let's go ahead and generate our public and private key. So let me search for PartyGen and just come and open PartyGen. So let's generate a key. Let's click on generate, and you can just play around with your mouse to generate the key on your computer like I did. And of course, you want to make sure you add a key phrase. So this means that if somebody gets your private key, they will not be able to use it to log into your server without knowing the private key that you use here. So make sure you add a key phrase. This is like a password for your private key. This is also very important. Make sure you add this for the security, and I'm going to add one as well. Confirm the passphrase. And as soon as you do that, you can save your public and private key. Okay, so as for the public key, this is our public key. I'm not going to do anything like saving it. I'm just going to leave it there, but I can save it. I can save it as well. But let me just save the private key first. This is the one that's more important now. So I'm going to save, and I can save it. I can save it here on my desktop. So let me just do Ctrl+Shift+N to create a new folder. And I can call this new server. And then give your private key a name, something that at least, even if you have many keys, you can recognize this key and know it is for which server. So for this, I'm going to call it Cyber Panel Windows. Just save. Now your private key is saved. So the next step is for us to add this public key. So if I click in there, I can copy the entire thing, but we're going to come to that. Let's see if you're still logged in on Party. So from the last video, we were logged in. Let's see if you're still logged in. I'll just do clear. I will do clear to clear the screen. I will come back onto my browser here. So I've generated the key, I've saved the key. What I need to do now is to, you can also save the key. Just copy the key and save it in a notepad or notepad++ file, .txt file. You can copy that and save that in as your public key, I mean. And now the next thing I want to do here is let's log in. We already logged into the server, so I just need to make this directory. I don't know if this directory is in our server. So before I continue with all this, the first I need to log out. I need to log out of my server, because from now on, everything you do, you're going to need to do with the new user that you've created. You're not going to do it with the root. So let me just log out completely, and then I'm going to log in again. So let me just do exit to log out. And then I will do exit again to log out of root. And let me open party once again, and we're going to log in using the new user that we created. So I'll open up party. And just put that somewhere there. And this is a server we're working with. Now we want to log in as new user 2020. Enter the password. All right. So from now on, everything we do, we are going to use this user. So we can just see, we can just check if this file already exists, or do we need to create it? This one, SSH. Does this directory exist? Okay, I don't see the SSH anywhere here. So I have to create it. So let me create this one, sudo. Yeah. Copy. So now if we do the above command, we should see SSH, the folder has now been added. And then we're going to do nano. We're going to use nano to edit the authorized key inside here. So it doesn't exist, but it's going to get created when we run this. And then I will paste in that, enter. And now we are editing using nano. Nano is an editor that you can use inside of your Linux, inside of the Linux environment. So what I need to copy is this. Let's go back in there. In Partigen, you drag it here, and I will put my cursor at the very first character there, before the very first character, and then I will scroll all the way down to the last bit of this character, and then I will copy, select, click on the last end here to select the entire thing. And then I will come back into party, and I will paste this in here. So remember, in party, if you want to paste, you just do right click and it's going to paste it. Okay. If you are using party on Ubuntu, on Linux, I don't know whether you are able to paste anything. All right. So once we've pasted in our public key, this is our public key, we're going to do Control X, and then Y to accept the changes we've made to this file, and then enter, and that's it. So we've added our public key there. Now the next thing we need to change the permissions for that. Okay, change. This is going to modify the permissions for this and the permissions for this. So I want to do this in one line. So I'm going to copy this, and I want to run both of them in one line. I'm just going to copy and paste that, and then I will do 2 ampersands. So this is something you can do to join two to even multiple commands on Linux. You just do 2 ampersands and it's going to combine. And then I will copy this one as well, paste, and then enter. All right, now permissions for these have been changed. Now the next thing is, let me change the ownership for the new user that I've created. So for this, I need to probably put it somewhere else so that I can edit these things. I don't want to type on party. I can come here, I will copy this. So to copy anything on party, just select it and then do left click. So I'm going to paste, paste, paste. So change this with the user that you created in the last video. So I will paste that in there by right clicking and then enter. And now we are done. So we are ready to log in. So to log into your server, just open up party once again. So for me, I'm just going to close this and then open party. So now this is how to log in on party using your SSH. Let me just leave that there. Maybe there's some errors. Let me log in using SSH. Now I'm going to load this. Okay, just load it. Don't do anything else. Just load it. And then let's come down to SSH. And then here under auth, you need to select the private key. Okay, so the key was saved under desktop, and then it was under a new folder. What was the name of the folder? New server. And then this is our private key. So I'm going to double click on it, and I don't want to always do that every time I want to log into my server. So what I'll do is I'll save this. I will go back into sessions, and I already have this loaded. So I'm just going to click here to save it. Okay. And once I do that, I can open, and it will ask me to log in as the SSH key was not added for root. We need to log in as the user we created. And for me, it was new user 2020. Enter, and then the passphrase. You remember the passphrase? Use that here. So this is a passphrase that you created. That is a passphrase that you created here on party. So you can see everything has been successful. So I can just go ahead and close that. So you can see that you have set up SSH on your server. And now you can log in via SSH. So the next thing that we're going to do to end this section for Windows is I'm going to log in again via party, and then I'm going to remove root. I'm going to remove the root login. I'm going to disallow root login. I'm also going to disallow login via passwords on my server. So if you want to log in, you must have my private key. Okay, so that is pretty much everything that we are going to cover on this section for the Windows guys. After that, I'm going to start doing tutorials for Linux on Ubuntu, and then after that we can all start installing CyberPanel. So let's just see if our sudo is working fine, and I can do that by testing if I can update the server. Sudo update. And add the password for this user. All right, so everything is working fine. So let me just go ahead and log out, and we're going to log in once again in the next video. So in this video, you've seen how to set up SSH on your CentOS 8, and I followed the same guide that I used on my CentOS 7 tutorial. I will see you in the next video when we disable root login. So I think that is also here. So that is here. We are going to log in, and then we're going to remove password authentication and root login so that people don't log into our server. So I'll see you in the next video when we continue from here. In this video, we are going to disallow root login, and we're also going to disable password authentication, and we're also going to configure the time zone so that it is in line with where we are. So let me log in on party. And you remember how to log in. Once you save any session, you can just double click on it, and then we are going to log in as the user that you created. And then add the passphrase that you used for your private key. Okay. The next thing that we want to do is we want to go into this file, edit it so that you can disable root login. We need to disable some things on that file for security reasons. So I will paste that in, and on party you can just paste by right clicking, and you need to enter the password for your user because you're using sudo. So on this file, we need to edit certain things, and let me just copy them from here because I don't want to search. So I will copy that, permit root login, and then I will come back here and I will do Control W, and then since I'm on party, I can just right click to paste in that, and then I'll press enter to search for this. And right now you can see root login is allowed. We want to disable root login. So I will just scroll all the way, and then I will type no and remove yes. So make sure it is like that, make it no. And then the next thing that you want to remove is password authentication. So I will copy that as well, and then I will come back into party, and then I will do Control W again, and then I will right click and then enter, and you can see password authentication is on. Let's go and make it no. And that's pretty much it. There are also certain things you can change here. That's all we wanted to do, and that is all that is recommended here. That's all that the minimum that I'm recommending here for you to change. Don't change anything else unless you know what it is. So once you make those changes, let us do Control X and then Y to accept the changes. Then type enter, and then we need to restart SSHD. So we need to restart SSH. So I will restart SSH with that. Reload SSH. Paste. Enter. And that's it. So right now, what I can do is I can try to log in using root, and you're going to see I will not be allowed. I will also try to log in via password. Of course, that will be impossible to do, log in via password, but let's just exit. Let me just come here and I will say new session. You can start a new session of party like that if you want to test your login. So you see I changed some things that are very crucial here, and let me just make sure that everything is working well before I close or log out of this. So I will come in and open a new session, and I want to log in as, first of all, let's try to log in as root, and we'll see that it brings an error. So you see the server refused, and that is good. Let's try once again and new session, and I will just double click. Let's do new user 2020. right, so the video is getting longer than I would love for it to be, so I'm going to end the video here. But just as a summary, in this video you've seen how to disable password authentication, and you've also seen how you can disable root login, so the root user cannot log into our server. So that every Linux user, every Linux system has a root user, and therefore it is a high security risk, because everyone in the world knows that there's a user by the name of root on your server. So if they can guess the password, they can get into your server. And another feature you've helped your server with is disabling password authentication. So even if somebody knows the root user, they can try to log in with the password, but they won't be allowed to log into your server without the SSH key that you set up. So that is a very important feature for your server. In the next video, we're going to see how to configure the date so that our server will be showing the correct time location. In this video, let's see how to change the time zone for your server. To change that, you'll just need this, and you can change this last ones. Maybe you're in Europe, London, you can change this to Europe, and then that to London. Maybe you're in Africa, you can change that Africa, Nairobi, or Africa, wherever you are, whether it's in Lagos, you can change it to wherever. So in this video, let's see how to do that. And first of all, let's log into our server. So let me check the current date that has been set for this. And the date it's saying it's that. So let's say I change it to, let me copy this and I put this in, I put this here so that I can change that. So just change this to the continent. Change this to the continent where you are, plus a city that is in your country. And I'll come back to my server. I will paste that in there. And if I check the new date, you can see it has changed. If you want to change it to something else, maybe you're in London, you can change that to Europe. London. And you copy that, bring it, and then confirm the date. Okay, the issue is I have not left any space here. All right, so let us do this again. And I will paste, enter, and when I do date, you can see the location has been changed. So let's say maybe you're in Australia. I hope that is the spelling for Canberra. Let's copy and enter, check the time, and you'll see it will change based on what you put here. So just do this and you're going to change your server to your local time. So that's it for this section about Windows. So everything else that we're going to do will be in tandem with any platform. So we've seen how you can set up your server. If you're on Windows, you've used Party and Partigen to set up your SSH. The next part, after I'm done with the Linux section, will be about installing CyberPanel. And once we install CyberPanel, you will see how to set up your website. You'll see how to add a website and how to change DNS settings on Cloudflare, because I do intend to use Cloudflare for all the DNS settings, because I don't want to deal with child DNS, child name servers. You can also use child name servers to use your own website as your own domain, as your own DNS, your own name servers, right? Like if my website is bizanosa.com, I could use ns1.bizanosa.com as my name servers, but I don't want to do that. I just want to use Cloudflare, and I'm going to show you how to do that. But if you're interested in the other one, that's something you can do as well. So that's it for this part for the Windows guys. So I don't think I need this server for anything, so I'm going to destroy the server. If I come here, I can destroy this server. Just click on server destroy, confirm that you want to destroy the server, and then destroy the server, and it will be gone. So that's all I wanted to do in this part for anyone using Windows. I will see you next time in the next video. See you then. Hi and welcome back to this free CyberPanel tutorial for beginners. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to deploy our server, and I will start by deploying one server which is for the Windows tutorial, because I first of all want to do a tutorial for the Windows guys. And if you're following along with me on a Windows computer, you're going to see how you can log in using PATI, set up SSH, and then after that I'm going to do the Linux tutorial for the Linux guys and the Mac guys using terminal. But first I'm going to start with Windows. So in this video, let's deploy our server. And if you don't have an account, go ahead and use the affiliate link in the description below. You will get $100 credit. I hope the offer is still available, so just check out and see if it is still available. I will log into my account. So I'll just click there to deploy an instance. We need to choose a server type. You can choose cloud compute or high frequency, but I suggest that you start with cloud compute, because first of all, I would advise you to just follow along with me, set up the server just as a sample, install CyberPanel, run an actual website, change the DNS settings just to test CyberPanel to see how it works. And once you get a hang of it and you followed with me throughout, you can delete the server that we're creating now, and then you can start a fresh server that you can actually use on your production. Okay, so first of all, just follow along with me. So what's the difference between cloud compute and high frequency? Cloud compute is just the same as this, but this has a higher power than this, but it's just slightly higher power, but you can still use this. Most people actually use this, and the performance is still great. But if on a production, if you want better performance, you can try this one. So I'm going to choose cloud compute. You can choose a region, Seattle, or let me choose, where is Chicago? I can choose Chicago. So if you want to know how to choose your location, so let's just take this small detour to see how you can choose a location for yourself. So if you come here under features, data center locations, you can test different locations just to see which location will give you the fastest speeds. So it's important for you to know whether you want to base the speed off of where you are or off of where your visitors are. So if you're in the same place as your visitors, you can just test different regions to see which region has better performance for you. So if I come here, I can test Miami just to see the speeds that I will get based off of where I am. So you can also test based off of where your visitors are. So where your visitors are, if you're not in the same location, you can just use a VPN. So if you're not in the same location as your intended website visitors, you can use a VPN to emulate their location and then come here and test. So let's say I want to test Miami. You can test different locations here. So let's say I want to test Miami. I can just click on that IP address and then just run the test with the default setting here. And you can see that this is the amount of time it takes for everything to happen for me, 94 milliseconds. So if I want to test a different region, let me just refresh the page. Maybe I want to test Atlanta. So I will select this I will click there to select that IP, and then I will run the test. So you can see this one is much higher, so it's not a good location for me. And let me try to reload again, and this time around let me test Seattle, and then I will click the link. I will click this IP address and then run the test again. And you can see that this is giving me a much better result than all the others. So this is a better location for me. Okay, so just do something similar to find the best location for you. The lower the time, the better for you. Okay, so you've seen how you can select a region. So for me, I'm just going to test Chicago because it's for demonstration purposes. And then throughout this tutorial, of course, we want to use CentOS 8 to install Cyberpanel. So you can also use CentOS 7, which is more stable with most applications right now. It's more stable with more applications than CentOS 8. Most applications currently support CentOS 7. So we're going to choose CentOS 8. And server size, let's choose $5 monthly. And let's just check all these features. We want that, and we want that as well. You can also enable automatic backups if that's something you want. We don't have any startup scripts to be run with our server, and we don't have SSH keys. We're going to set up SSH keys later on. And then server hostname and label. Give this server a name that is, give it a name of a domain name. Give it a fully qualified domain name, and this will enable you to send mail. If you don't use a fully qualified domain name here, you're going to have a problem sending mail. So this is just a sample, so I will use a sample of this with bizanosa.com. But this is not our final server. I'll actually delete this and create another one once I'm done with this Windows part. So there you go, $5. Just confirm that everything is as you selected. And then we're going to deploy the server. So the server is currently being installed, being set up for us. If we click on it, you can see the IP address that we've been given, the password. So just give it some time. There you go. We've been given an IP. We've been given a password, user, root. We're going to disable root user at some point, and we're also going to disable password login at some point, which is a good security feature that you need to have on your server. So in this video, you've seen how you can set up, how you can deploy your server. And if you're on Windows, the next video is for you. I will show you how you can log into your server using Putty. We're going to download Putty, install Putty, and see how you can log into your server. I will see you in the next video. So if you're following along with me on Linux or Mac, I've set up this server, and I'm going to use this for the demonstrations that follow. And this will be our final server where we'll install Cyberpanel as well. So in this video, what I want us to do is I want us to log into the server for the first time and then update CentOS 8. So in this video, the first thing I want to do is I want to log in. So I'm going to go into the server. I haven't logged in yet. I've just set up this server right now, and I want to log into this server. So I'll copy the IP address and I will open up terminal. So let's log into the server, and I'll just SSH. I will just SSH as root. Are you sure you want to continue? Yes, I've just set up the server, so of course it's a safe server. So I will type in yes. Okay, so let's go and copy the password from here, and I'll just copy the password and then come back here, and I will do Ctrl+Shift+V to paste. All right, so we are logged into our server. The first thing I want to do, let me update the server. So since this is CentOS 8, I will update it like this. There we go. The update is complete. And now we can move on to the next step. So in this video, you've seen how to log into your server for the first time and then update CentOS 8. All right, I will see you in the next video. So in this video, let's log in again. And what you're going to do in this video is we're going to create a new sudo user. And I'm going to use this post. You can find the link in the description below. If I forget to add it, you can just remind me and I will add it. So it's a good practice to create a new user on your server instead of using root. And we can just see if there is any update since the last update. All right, everything is up to date. Now let's start creating the new user, and we're going to add a new user. Add the user. All right, so we need to give the user a password. So you can use a strong password, something with special characters, numbers, symbols, capitals, just mix them up. Okay, so that's a weak password. Let me try a different password. Retype the password. The new password has been set. The new user has been created. Now what we need to do is we need to add them to the wheel group so that they can have sudo privileges. That way, even if we disable the root user, the user that we're currently creating will still be able to do certain admin functions. So that's what you need to do, and you can just do that. You can do that by modifying the user, and you can use this. Okay, so let's just do that, and then that will be the end of this video. So this is going to add them to the wheel group, and if we add them to the wheel group, they're going to have the sudo privileges. Since we are the root user, we've assumed the role of this, but we can try to log in on a different window. Let me just open up a new tab, and then we're going to SSH into the server and try to log in as the new user. Put in the password that you set. There we go. You can log in as the new user. Let's test if we can use sudo. So let's just try to do sudo update. So this means that you have been added. If you see this message, you've been added successfully to the wheel group, and you can use the sudo command. If you receive any error, that means that you made a mistake somewhere. Just go back and see where you may have made a mistake. So the first time you use sudo, every time you'll always be asked to put your password. So use the password for your user to access the sudo commands. All right, that's it for this video. In this video, you've seen how to create a new user and then add the user to your sudo users. So even if the user is already created, you can just modify the user in the same way that we did here. So you can just use that, and it's going to modify the new user so that they can have this sudo privilege. All right, that's it for this video. I will see you in the next video. And in the next video, let's see how to set up SSH key login. So you can also find that on my site here. And when you come here, we're going to use this article. So you can just search for SSH keys. If you come to my site and you search for SSH keys, you'll see the post that you're going to use. And we're going to use this post to set up our SSH key login. So with this, we will be able to log in without using our password, and then we're going to disable the root user login, and then we're also going to disable password authentication, so that the only way that people can access our server is by using the user that we created, and also by using the keys that we set up, the private keys that we're going to set up. No one will be able to log in using a password because you're going to disable that. And that's a good security feature for your server. So I will see you in that next video when we set up SSH keys. In the last video, we saw how to create the new sudo user, and then we also logged in with that user. So throughout the next videos, we're not going to use root for anything. So I can just close this because we're done with root. We will not be using root throughout this tutorial again for anything else until we get to the part about installing CyberPanel. But for now, we'll only be using the user that you created, and if we need to do anything that requires root access, then we'll use sudo. So in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to see how to set up SSH key pairs, and then we're going to set them up so that we can log in with our private SSH key. So you're going to see how to do that. If you are on Windows, I did a video about that using Party and Partigen. You can find that and follow along with that within my videos in the correct playlist. If you're on Linux or Mac, then this video is for you. You can follow along with me on terminal, and in the end, you're going to have your SSH keys set up so that you can use them to log in. And then we are also going to disable root login and password authentication in upcoming videos. So right now, let me just come to the browser, and I'm going to follow this post that I wrote recently. If you go to bizanosa.com, so this is a post, but if you search, you can search here for SSH keys, enter, and generate SSH keys and use them. That is the correct post. So this is the one that I'm going to follow as I set up my SSH keys, and you should also come to this link, and I will add this link in the description. If it is not there, just remind me and I will add it for you. So there are two ways in which you can add this. You can use the default way, whereby you just press enter and the keys are going to be created for you. But I'm assuming that you probably have multiple servers you'll be setting up, or you already have some SSH keys that you've already set up on your computer. So let me just show you the second way, which is the method that I prefer, because with this method you can create multiple SSH keys and you'll know how to log in with the different keys. So with this method, you'll name your SSH keys whatever you want. You can give it a different name. You don't have to use the default settings. So first of all, the steps, you're going to generate the keys, and then after you generate the keys, you'll add the public key to the server. So two keys are going to get generated, public and private, and both of them will be on your computer, but the private key is the one that you use to log in. We'll need to add the public key to the server, and then once we add it, we're going to change the permission for this. This is where we're going to add the SSH key on our server, and then once we do this, we're going to log in just to confirm that you can log in. Okay, so let's get started. And the first thing I want to do here is I need to open a new tab. So just remember that right now at this point we are in our server, okay? But this process, the generation of the SSH keys, we are going to need to do this on our local computer. So just come here in terminal and open up a new tab. You can even log out. If you can't open another tab, just log out of your server for now. And so this is done on your local computer. We're going to generate the SSH keys. So let's come back here, and you can see that here I've not added sudo to generate this directory. Make sure you don't add sudo, okay? Because when you use sudo to generate your keys, every time you want to log in, you're going to need to use sudo. Personally, I usually use sudo when generating the keys because it adds another security on my computer. So if you find access to my computer, you won't be able to log in without knowing my current password on my computer right now. So if you want to use sudo for all these other steps, just know that you'll have to use sudo. Even when you're logging into the server, you'll need to do sudo SSH into the server. For this, I'm just going to do it without sudo. So if you want to use sudo, you'll start using sudo from here, not from here, okay? From here, you're just making a directory that is that is accessible. So first, we're going to create this directory, and inside of this directory, this is where we're going to store our keys. So you can see this was a sample that I just added here for Cold Vault Vesta, but we're going to rename it. Let's come here. I've copied that. I want to make a directory. So the first step, I will make this directory, and let's call it cyber tutorial. If you go into your folders inside of SSH, you enable hidden folders, you're going to find this folder inside of the SSH folder. So the next process, let's generate the keys. So SSH keygen, you can use this to generate your SSH on Linux or Mac. So just an explanation, SSH keygen, this is the one that will generate our key, and then this tells the system that you want an RSA key. The different types of keys you can generate, but that's the one we're going to generate, RSA. And then this, just the bits. So we're going to generate a 4096 bit key. There's also 12 something 2048 keys, but you're going to generate 4096. And then this is just a comment, -c, this is just a comment, and I'm just adding an email there, but it's just a comment. And -f, so this is where we want to store it, okay? This is going to tell the system that we want to store it here. So I will copy this, and I want to put it in a text editor, then paste, and there's something that I want to change here. The name of the folder, we created the folder called Cybertut. Copy. We'll come in here, and the name of the folder, we'll change it. And then this is going to be the name of the keys. So the private and the public keys, these are the names, okay? So here you can see we're not using the default. The default are usually just ID, RSA. But for us, we're going to use a different name. So you can just call it first server, RSA, of like that, okay? And that's just okay. So at this point, if you want to use sudo, you can use sudo, but just know that once you start using sudo, you're going to need to use sudo throughout for the next processes. I hope you understand what I mean. So for me, I'm just going to paste in this and then enter. So the next process, you need to enter a passphrase. So this is also important. This is like a password for your key. So if somebody gets access to your private key and they try to use it to log into your server, they will need to know this passphrase. So just make sure you add this, and I'm going to add one myself. And then enter the passphrase once again. All right, so our public key and the private key has been created, and I want to copy this because I'm going to use them to log into my server. So make sure you copy it and save it somewhere. You should probably save it somewhere that you won't ever lose it, just so it can help you to remember. So once we have generated the key, the next process for us is now to add the public key to the server. So if you want to add your public key to the server and you follow the second method in this post, this is how you're going to do it. In the first method, you're just going to do SSH copy ID, and that is going to work. You're just going to do SSH copy ID, and then you're going to add the user and your IP address there. But for us, we're going to need to add the identity. So the identity, this is just a flag that tells the system the exact key that we want to add. So let me copy this one, which has an example already. So I'm just going to click on that to copy, and I will bring it back to the text editor because I want to edit it before I put it on terminal. Right, so this is the path to your public key, okay? So just know this is a path to your public key, and this just means this is home. In Linux, this just means this is the current home user. So like in this case, you can see the current home user is that. Instead of typing all this, you'll just replace that with a tilde. So I'm going to, what do I need to change here? Let me just copy all from here, Cybertut. So the only thing I changed here was Cybertut, right? So the rest will probably just be the same, will definitely just be the same. So I'm going to change Vault Vesta, which is the directory, which is the only thing I changed. If you change anything else, make sure you change it appropriately. All right, and then here, this is the new user 2020, and then this is your IP address, the IP address for your server. So let's come back, and I'm going to copy that, and I will put it in text, in the text editor. There we go, and then we paste. All right, so if you don't want to, if you just want to copy and pasting, you can also do this, copy, and then just come in here and copy this. The one with .pub, that is a public file. The one without an extension, that is a private key. And then you add. So this and this is just the same thing, but I'm going to take that one, SSD via SSH keys. All right, so just something here. If you are following along with me and you're on a Mac, make sure that you have SSH copy ID installed. If you don't have it installed, you can install it using brew keys. So the Linux rules, or the Linux rules is usually that this needs to be at least 600 or anything higher. So if it is not, you're going to receive errors when you try to log in using, if you set up SSH and you try to log in and you receive any errors, make sure you change the permissions. So I'm going to paste that in there. I'm not even going to do anything else, just paste it, because I know I don't need to edit anything. So I will enter. So actually this, I need to do this on the server, not here. So before I do this, let me see if I can log in with my SSH keys just yet, because if I can log in with the SSH keys, well and good. So log in via SSH. Let's come in here and we're going to copy this, okay? Copy. And I will come back here and let's see which is our IP. Control V, and then this is the identity. So the public file for us, it's this one. So I'm just going to copy it there. Copy, and let's come back here, open up a new tab of terminal. I will paste that in there. And you see it requires the passphrase that you set up for your private key. All right, so now you're logged into the server using your SSH keys. So let's change the permissions for this. Apparently, I didn't receive any error, so probably the permissions are not too bad. But if the permissions are too bad, you probably won't be able to log in. So let's change the permission, and we're going to change the permission for SSH directory and this file. This is where all your public keys are kept. So I will copy that and I will just put where we are logged in. This is where we're logged in via SSH. So I will paste in that. So that's all that we need to do in this video, nothing else. We just need to set up SSH keys, and you've seen how to do it the right way. So the beautiful thing about the way that I've shown you how to do it is that you can create multiple keys for different users, for different servers, and you can group all of them in different directories. So you don't have to do it the default way, and most tutorials online show you how to do it the default way. If you want to change the name of the keys, this is how you're going to do it. This way you can create multiple keys on the same Linux computer or on the same Mac computer, and you won't receive any problems, because if you try to do it this way, the first way, you will replace your keys, and if you replace your keys, you lose access to the server that uses those keys. So in this video, you've seen how to set up SSH keys, and in the next video, let's see how to. In the next video, let's come back and we're going to, if you scroll up here, there's something else that I did, and that is disable. We need to disable root login, and we also need to disable password authentication. So we're going to do that when we come back in the next video. I'll see you in the next video. If you get lost, feel free to reach out. I will see how to assist you. In this video, we're going to disable root login and password authentication. So just scroll down until you get to this part. And since you're already logged into the server, let's just open up the SSH config file. So here we need to find root login and password authentication and change them to no. So I will copy that. So this means once we enable this, you won't be able to log into the server as root. So since I'm on nano, I can do Control W, and then I can do Control Shift V to paste, enter, and then permit root login. Yes, we want to change this to no. So if you find that it is commented, just remove the pound sign in front of it to uncomment it. I think on CentOS 7 it's usually commented. Alright, now the next thing is password authentication. I don't want to type to search, so let me just come back and copy it. We want to copy, we want to disable password authentication as well. Control W to search, Control Shift V to paste inside of terminal. And I will change this down. Password authentication. If it is commented out, just remove the pound sign and uncomment it. And then change yes to no. Password authentication and root login are not allowed. So if you want to log into the server now, you'll only be able to log in using the SSH keys. And if there's anything else here that you want to check out, just go through this and you can Google each of them to see what they do. So I'll do Control X to get out of nano. Yes, I'll do Y to accept the changes. And then press enter, and that's it. And then I need to reload SSHD. If I try to log in, and I can try to log in without my SSH key just by copying this only, okay? If I copy this only, it's going to assume that I'm logging in without my SSH key. So you see this is only for the way that we created our SSH, all right? You have to give the identity for that. So I don't want to log out of here yet. Let me just come here and open a new tab, and I will paste in that. And you can see permission denied, all right? So permission denied, you have to use a key to log in, okay? If you want to log in, let's come back here. Where is it? I think this is the one. We can copy this. Copy. All right, so you see that you can only log in using your SSH key, okay? So you can just copy this line and paste it somewhere and save it so that you don't have to type it. You just copy and paste in there. So in this video, you've seen how to disable root login and password authentication. So you can only log into your server using the SSH keys, and you saw how to set up the SSH key login in the previous video. If you didn't watch that video, make sure you watch it and follow along with this post as I did in the video. So that's it for this video. In the next video, let's just see how to set up the date, and that will be the end of this part. And then after that, you can see how to install CyberPanel and then move on from there. So I'll see you in the next video. In this video, let's see how to set up the time zone for our server, and we're going to set up the time zone very simply, I'm going to go into a post that I wrote some time back. So I'm just going to go to bizanosa.com/VSS. That's going to redirect me to this post. And if I scroll down, all the way down, there is a section about time zone when setting up your server. And that's the last thing I want us to do in this video before we finally install CyberPanel. So before you install CyberPanel, you can also create a swap file. So if you scroll on this very post, if you scroll to the top, you're going to see how to create a swap file on CentOS. So just scroll all the way to the top and you're going to see a link above about how to create a swap file. So you can create a swap file if you have a low memory space. When memory runs out, you'll use your swap file as memory. So you can do that on CentOS. And if you scroll all the way to the top, you're going to see how to do that. So let's configure the time zone. And for this, I don't want to spend a lot of time on it. I'm just going to copy. And then I will paste in this. This is how you can find your time zone very easily. This is how you can tune it. Let's say you're in London. What you can do is you'll just change this continent location. So you can just change this continent and then location. So maybe you're in London. You can say Europe. And then London. So if I copy this, come back to where I'm logged in on the server. Let's first of all see the current date, the current time that is on the server, time zone on the server. So if I do date, it's going to show me. And you can see right now, it says that it is UTC. And if I paste in and change this, it's so once I do that and I do date once again, let's do this again. Okay, maybe this is a time zone for London. Let's come back here and I want to change, let's change this to Australia. And I'm going to change it to Canberra. Copy. And you'll see that it has changed it to Australia East Central Time, whatever that is. And you can also do the same for your location, regardless of where you are. Just change this and let's say Africa, Nairobi. And you can see the time zone has changed. So just change it the way I've told you. This, your continent and a city near you or a city where you are at. So that's it for this video. I will see you next time. So before I end the video, just consider creating a swap file. Consider creating a swap file for your server. Okay, so if you come here, you can see how to create a swap file in CentOS 7. You can do this for CentOS 8 as well. It's going to work on CentOS 8. So just click that and create a swap file. If your server has like 1 GB of RAM, you can create 2 GB of swap or 1 GB of swap, depending on whichever you want. Just follow this to create the swap file. All right, so that's it for this video. I will see you next time. And next time what I'm going to do is you're going to see how to install CyberPanel. So let me deploy the server, and as I said, you can use Vultr or any VPS that you want to use. For me, I'm using Vultr. So if you want to deploy a server, just go there and deploy a new server. And I will be using Debian 10. So for this, you can use Cloud Compute or high frequency. And I'm going to use Cloud Compute for this. This is 20% more expensive than that. And they say this is much faster than that. So I'm going to use, let me choose a location in America, and I'm going to choose a location
I will choose the Chicago data center. And then the operating system, I want to install Debian 10. So I'm going to click there, and then I will select Debian 10. And the server size, since I want to install virtual main, I want something that at least has 2 gigs of memory. So I'm going to choose this one for 10. I'm going to choose the $10 server, which has at least 2 gigs of memory. And of course, I will enable IPv6. I don't have any startup scripts, and I don't have the SSH key. I'm going to show you how you can set up the SSH key. And for the server hostname, I don't know which one to use. Let me log into Cloudflare and choose a domain that I can use. So for the server hostname, make sure you're using a name that is a fully qualified domain name. A fully qualified domain name, that's a name that you can access. If you add DNS records, it should be something that is accessible. You can use a full domain, or you can use a sub domain. So if you want to, you can use something like a full domain like that, or you can use a subdomain. But in my case, I want to use a subdomain, so I'm just going to add here panel dot, that is the host name, and this is going to get set up on Debian. If you want to change it, you can change the host name on Debian using the terminal, using the command line. You can do that, but just make sure you set it up now, since we're going to install virtual main and our aim is to run a WordPress website, and we also want to be able to send mail. Make sure that you have a subdomain that is a fully qualified domain name. So I'm going to add that as my host name, and then for the label, you can use anything that you want. I'm just going to leave it as it is, and then let me just go up and see if there's anything I've missed, and everything is as I chose it. So I'm just going to click here, and I will deploy my server. So let it finish installing. It's going to take a while, not even more than 5 minutes. Let's just click on it to see if it's already given us an IP address. Okay, not active. Just give it a few minutes, and then we're going to come here, click on it, and we're going to get user root, and we're also going to get a password and an IP address, and you can use the IP address to log in. So let me click on it again, and you can see now it is ready. So by the time you're watching this, I will have removed this server. I will have destroyed the server. So don't try to access it in any way. So if you want to see your password, you can click there to see the password, and you can copy it. You can copy your IP address, and the user is root. So you can log in. If you want to log in via party, there is a guide here how you can log in via party. But I want to log in using Git Bash. So I'm on Windows. I'm doing this tutorial on Windows, and you can use Git Bash if you want that terminal-ish environment. So if you are on Linux, Mac, you can still follow along with me because I will be using Git Bash. If you prefer to use Party, the tutorial is here, how you can set up your server using Party, and I'm going to follow some of those as well. So if you want to install Git Bash, just come to Google and you're going to search for Git. Let's just search for Git. And you want to download it from Git SEM. Come here and click on downloads, and then download the one for Windows. So I'm on Windows. I'm going to download the one for Windows. I already have it installed. I'm just showing you what you can do. So once the download is complete, this is going to install everything we need. It's going to install Git Bash. It's going to install Git, and it's also going to install Git CMD. So anything that you want to do with any of those others, you can do, but we are only interested in Git Bash. So once you install it, just go and open it up, and we're going to use these details to log in. So I'm going to come here in my start menu, and I want to look for Git Bash. So open up Git Bash, and once you open Git Bash, the first thing you want to do is we want to try to log into our server. So I'm going to copy the IP address, and to log into the server, I will just write SSH. So this is the same way you log in on terminal if you're following along on terminal on Linux. So I'm using Windows, as I've said. So SSH, and then the user root at my IP address. So on Git Bash, you can paste by doing shift insert and then enter. And it's going to ask me if I want to allow this server into my hosts file. And this is a new server. So I'm going to type yes, and then enter. and this has been added to your hosts file. So that means that it is a known server, a known address. And then I'm going to go back and I need to copy the root password. So I'm going to copy the root password, copy. And as I said, on Git Bash, you can paste by Shift Insert. You won't be able to see the password as you type it in or as you paste it in, but just press enter and you should be logged in. Right, there we go. So now we're logged into the server. We can try to update the server. We don't really need sudo at this point. So I'm just going to do apt update to check if there are any updates. Okay, all packages are up to date. So in the next video, let's come in and we're going to create a sudo user. So the sudo user is a secure way for you to use your SSH. Once we do that, we're going to disable the root user so that they won't be able to log into the server. And from then on, anything that we do, we're going to use the sudo command. So everything we want to do, sudo update, sudo apt install, all that, we're going to use sudo. And we're going to do that once we set up the sudo user. So that's what we're going to do next. So if you're still with me, this is where we had stopped. And what needs to happen now, we need to create a sudo user. So let me I will clear the screen. So we need to set up, as I've said, we need to set up a sudo user. And the sudo user is going to give us all the admin privileges that we need. So let's come back to the post here, and the link for this is in the description. If it's not there, just remind me and I'm going to add it. So you can also use party to log in if you want to. So let's add the user, and I'm going to give it a different name from that. Add user. Give the user a strong password. All right, password updated successfully. All these others, I can just press enter to skip all of that. All right. And then the next step is we want to make this user a sudo user. Okay. So we need to add them, give them the sudo privileges. Okay. So I'll copy that bit. And I'll paste that, and the user is that. So give it the user that you created. So this user now is an admin user. So if you do experience any problem, depending on the VPS that you're using, you may experience a problem whereby this command is not going to work. You're going to get told that sudo is not recognized. So what that means is that they have a very minimal install of Debian, and what you need to do is you need to install sudo. That's all you need to do. Just install sudo and then run the command again. All right, so the next step is for me to try and log in. So I'm going to try and log in with the new details for this guy, and then once we are able to log in and we are able to run sudo commands, I'm going to immediately disable the root user from logging into the server. I will open up a new Git Bash window, and then I want to get the IP address, and I want to log in SSH, new user. And then the password for the new user. Okay, there we go. The new user has logged in. So let's just test if we can run sudo commands. So I'm going to do sudo apt enter the password. So every time you use sudo for the first time, it's going to ask you for the password. and you can see we can run sudo commands. So that means that everything is working well. So we've already set up the new user. Now the next process is, let's see what's next here. The next process, I think we need to set up SSH, and I'm not going to set up firewall because I'm going to install virtual main, and virtual main is going to add all the ports that we need. The next thing is to set up SSH. So you can set up SSH using party, but I'm also going to show you how you can set it up using git bash. So using the git bash method on Windows, if you're on Windows, you can set up SSH using git bash or using party. If you are on a Mac or a Linux, you can use git bash. You can actually follow along with me using git bash, but I also do have a very intense tutorial here, very intensive, about how you can set up SSH on your Linux or Mac computer for your CentOS, RHEL, Debian. So this basically works on any Linux distribution. So just follow this if you want to set up your SSH key and be able to log in using SSH. And then once we do that, we're going to disable password authentication so that people can only log in using the SSH key. So if someone doesn't have the SSH key, they will not be able to access the server. And that's the next thing that we're going to do. I can set up this using git bash or party, but I do have a tutorial with git bash. So let me just look for that. Let me just search for git bash, and there we go. You can set up SSH using git bash, and this will also work for you if you're on Windows and you're following along with git bash. You can use this one as well. So this is just the same way that you do it on Linux, all right? So this is what I'm going to do in the next video. I'm going to use git bash to set up SSH authentication. So I'm going to see you in that next part. If there's anything that is not working for you, just let me know and we'll see what the issue could be. In the last one, you saw how to set up a sudo user, an admin user with root privileges. So in this video, let's see how you can set up SSH authentication using git bash. So I'm on Windows, that's why I'm using git bash, but even if you're on Linux or you're on Mac, you can still follow along with this. But as I told you in the last video, there's another post that you can follow if you're on Mac. If you're on a Mac, just come down to this part where it says SSH key authentication. The link for this is in the description, and click there. And this is going to take you to this page, and on this page you can set up SSH key for any Linux computer. So let's see how we can set up the same for our Debian, and I will be using git bash. So as I said, if you don't have git bash, you can download git, and it's going to come with git bash, and I showed you that in a previous video. Just download git and it's going to come with git bash, git cmd, and git GUI. Just here are the steps of what we're going to do. Of course, you install git, you can download git, and then we'll generate the key pairs. So since I'm on Windows, the first thing I want to do is I want to go to my home directory, and on the home directory, there is a .ssh folder, and inside of that folder, I'm going to create another folder for this demonstration. So this method that I've illustrated in this video is a nice way for you to create multiple keys. So if you want to create multiple keys, this is a way for you to go. Okay, and let's go into my home directory. So however you want to get to your home directory, if you're on Windows, you can always get to your home directory. You can just go to local disk, and inside of users, whichever user, that is your home directory. For me, that is also my home directory. Okay, so that is your home directory, and you can see for me, even hidden files, even hidden folders are being shown. So if your hidden folders are not being shown, just come here under view. I think it's under view, then you go into options, and then view again, and hidden files and folders, show hidden files, and make sure you select that. If you don't have hidden folders showing up, make sure they are visible. So for me, I want to go here inside of SSH, and let me create another sample, Control-Shift-N, and I want to call this, let's call this virtual main. So you can see that this is a really nice way because you can group all your different SSH keys in different folders. If you do any default method that most people show online, you won't be able to do this. So just make sure you follow either of my posts. It's going to show you how you can log in even once you create multiple SSH keys. My SSH keys that I'm going to generate are going to be inside here. Okay, so that's the first step. Make sure that you have this .ssh visible on your home directory in Windows. Okay, so that's the first step. I have created the folder, and you can see that here in this post, what I did is I did change directory. So cd is a way for you to change directory into this folder. So for me, I would have, if I was following this method, I would have to SSH into the virtual main folder that I've just created. And that's going to ensure that I don't have to add the path every time I want to do anything here. And even next time when you have to log in, you can cd into that folder so that you can get the private key for logging in. This is much easier to understand if I'm doing a demonstration. So let me show you what I mean. So I'm not going to cd, but you can cd, okay? You can change directory into that folder. And if you change directory, it simply means that anything else that you do after that, you don't have to put, like for instance, there, that is the name of my key. Here, if I did not cd into that folder, I would have to add this location, copy that, and then you put it before this, okay? And that's the way that I'm going to do it. But you can still follow along with this and do it like this. But I'm not going to cd, I'm just going to add the path. So let me copy that, and I want to put this inside of a txt file. Let me put that inside of a txt file so that I don't forget it. And there, so this simply means my home directory. So instead of adding the path to my home directory, that will replace that, my home directory. And what's the name of the folder that I've just created? It's called virtual main. So let me copy this as well, and I need the path. I just need this path, and this is where our keys are going to be. So you can see our keys will be stored inside here. So this is just the path to where my keys are. And now I can start following along with this tutorial. So the first step is, you can see if you cd, you don't need to add the path, but I'm going to have to add the path in my case. So I will copy all of this, and I will bring it into Notepad. And here in Notepad, as I said, you need to add the path. So if you cd into the folder, since you're on Windows, you don't need to add the path. That was just a way for me to save time. And this is the name of the key, virtual main / so this is the name of the key. The private key and the public key will have that name, and you can change this name. It doesn't have to be anything like this. I'm just calling it this, but you can call it whatever you want, okay? I'll just call it first server, just to show you that you can change the name. So this SSH keygen is going to generate a key, and the type of key we want to generate is RSA, and the bytes we want to generate 4096. You can generate 2048. There is also 1024, but of course we want the highest, which is B 4096. So this is the bytes of the key we want to generate, and this is just a comment. You can add anything that you want there. It doesn't have to be an email. That's just a comment that I've added there. And then now this is going to be where the file is going to get stored. Okay, so if I copy this, and just remember that this is being done on your local computer. So I will open. So I was logged in here as root. I can just delete this. I can just close that. I don't need that. And then I'm logged in here as a new user. Remember, we don't need to do we're not doing this inside the server. We're doing this outside of the server on a Windows computer. Right now we're logged into the server. So let me log out, and I can just do exit to log out. And you can see that has logged me out. Now you want to do this on your computer, okay? So this is on my computer, not in my server. This is where we are going to generate the key, and I'm going to paste that in there. You need to copy that, and let me just clear this screen. I will paste in this. What is up? Let me copy that. Copy. And then I will come here, there, SSH keygen. And remember, since I did not cd into the folder, I have to add the entire path. And as I said, this just replaces the path to my home folder. Okay, so that is what that does. And I'm going to press enter to generate our key. Now, of course, you want to add a passphrase for your key. A passphrase is an extra security for your key. So even if somebody gets access to your key, they will not be able to use it without knowing your passphrase. So it is like a password for your key, and you're going to generate the key with a passphrase. So for me, I'm just going to use a simple passphrase here, but make sure you use a passphrase that you can remember. Make sure you add this. This is very important, okay? So you can see our key has been generated, and the path to our private key is that, and the path to our public key is that. So this is a public key, and as I said, this path right here can just be replaced. This entire path can just be replaced with a tilde. So I'm going to copy this. Let me just copy both of them. Copy, and I want to add them. I want to paste them down here because I'm going to need them. Of course, I don't want to copy the entire thing. So from here, we'll just replace that with the tilde. So this is the one without .pub. That is your private key. And then this other one, this is our public key. And this one as well, I don't want the entire path. I'm just going to replace that with the tilde. Now we've generated the key. The next step is for us to add it to our server. So just remember that I did CD. In this post, I CD'd inside of that directory, but I did not CD. But I haven't CD in the video that I'm doing. So SSH copy ID, this is going to get used to copy our public key to our server. And this is how it should be right there. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to copy this. Let me copy this one. And then I'm going to replace all the elements that I need with the correct elements. So I'm going to come to the text file that I had here. And in this text file, let me just paste in that. Now SSH copy ID. Now we do want the identity of the key. This is just a flag to let the system know the identity of the key. So we want to copy this into our server. So I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to bring that path there, and I will paste it. Okay. And then the user, that is the username that I've been using on my server. That is the user that I've been using. And then the host, the IP address for my server. I can get that there. Paste. So this is going to add the key to our server. So it's very important to note that in this post, what I did is I CD'd into that folder. So that's why the path doesn't have the actual link. It just has the name of the key. Let's come back to git bash, and I'm going to paste in this, and this is going to try and install the key on our server. And we need to log in. This is a login for your server. All right, so the key has been added, and you can see that the key was added successfully. Now try logging into the machine with the SSH key. Now to log into your server, let's come back here. To log into your server, you just need the identity of your key, and that's it. And the user you're logging in as. So I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to copy them, and then I'm going to replace things appropriately as I need to. So SSH into the user, and we have the user here. User plus IP address, copy. User plus the IP address, that's who we want to log in as. Remember to add the SSH authentication for the pseudo user you set up. And then we need the path to our private key. Okay, we added in this part, we did add the .pub key, which is a public key. Now we need to log in with our identity, with our private key. So the private key link is that. So I'm going to copy this, and remember, the private key is the one that doesn't have .pub. .pub is the one which is public, which is your public key. Paste. So once you generate these keys, make sure you save them somewhere so that if you ever lose your computer, you can still get access to them. You can still get those keys and try to access your server using those keys, especially the private key. So I'm going to copy. So I'm going to copy that, and I will come back here and I'll just paste that in. This is just to try to log in. So enter the passphrase for the key. If you did set up a passphrase for these keys when you are setting them up, make sure that you enter that passphrase. There we go. Now we are logged into the server using our SSH keys. And before I even end the video, the next thing that I want to do is I want to disable root login and I want to disable password authentication. So I'm going to come down here and I need to go to the SSH configuration file and I need to disable root login and I need to disable password authentication. So I want to do that in this video so I don't have to do it in the next video. Copy and enter the user password. So every time you use sudo, you need to enter the password for this user. All right. So I need to find root login and I need to change this to no, and I also need to find password authentication and I need to change that to no. So I'm going to do Control W on nano, and then I will paste and permit root login currently set to yes. We don't want the root user to be able to log in via SSH. So I'm going to change this one to no. And then the next step again is I need to disable password authentication. So if someone doesn't have access to our keys, they will not be able to log into our server, and that's what we want. We only want people to be able to log in using the key that we set up. So I'm going to paste that in there, enter, and then password authentication, you can see right now it is commented out. So I'm just going to uncomment it and then scroll all the way. And this, we want to make this no. And then I will do Control X, Y, enter, and that's going to save it. And I need to restart SSH. So I can just do sudo service SSH restart, and that's going to restart SSH. And now if somebody tries to log in as a root user, they will not be able to log in. If somebody tries to log in via password, they will not be able to log in. Right now, the only way to log into our server is using the keys that we've set up. So do yourself a favor and just copy that and save it somewhere so that you can use this to log into your server if you need to. Okay. So I've just recalled there's something that I've forgotten to do, and that is to change the permissions for our SSH key and the SSH folder. So what we need to do, let's see if the permission thing is here. Okay, the permission thing is here. So I can just change permission for the SSH folder and the authorized keys on your server. So you need to make sure that the keys are not easily accessible, and that's what we're doing here. So I'm just going to copy this, and this will change the permissions for that SSH folder, and for the key it's going to give it a permission of 600, so no one else has access other than root. Okay, and once you do that, you'll have to change the ownership for that file to the new user that you've set up, otherwise you won't be able to log in. So I'm going to copy this and I will paste that in there. So the permissions have been changed. Now the next thing is for you to give ownership. You need to change the owner of that file and everything inside of this directory to the user that you've set up. Otherwise, you will not be able to log in. This is very important. So I'm going to copy that. And I'll put it there. So every instance of Joe, give it the group of the user you've set up, and the group will be that new user. So the group of Joe, user Joe, home directory Joe, and once you do this, you'll be able to log in. Copy, paste, and then enter. And now let's open up a new instance of Git Bash. And we need to try to log in. So that is our login. I will paste. All right, you can still log in. So that's everything that we needed to do in this video. And in this video, you have seen how you can set up SSH authentication using Git Bash. So you can follow the same steps. If you're on Linux or Mac, it's just basically the same steps. And if you don't want to use Git Bash, you can also use Putty and Puttygen. And I do have a video for that. If you come here, you can do that. If you go to this link and you scroll somewhere down here, you can watch the video right there. This is a video for using Putty and Puttygen for SSH keys. So if you get lost, make sure that you follow along and everything is going to work out correct. Now the next step is in our setup. We've already set up SSH keys. The next step is going to be, let's create the swap file, and I can create a swap file for 2 or 3 GB. A swap file is just a memory location that will be used when memory runs out on our server. So that's something that you need to add, especially if you have a low memory VPS. And then once we do that, we're going to get to installing virtual main, and then we'll see how to use virtual main to set up WordPress. And as I said, I'm just using WordPress as a sample. If you want to use any other websites like Joomla, Magento, you'll see how you can do it. And please note that I will be installing the LAMP stack. I will not be using LAMP. I will not install Apache. I will just install Nginx and PHP, my admin, for virtual main. So that's it for this one. I will see you in the next one, and let's continue in the next one by creating a swap file. Okay, so let's add a swap file, and then we're going to install virtual main after that. So let's just check if we do have. Now please note that there's something wrong with my site, and when I add 2 hyphens, it does that. Okay, so this is how it's supposed to be. Okay, like in this screenshot. So make sure that you note that any place where there are 2 hyphens, you will get something like that. So that is wrong. So let's first of all just see if we do have a swap file on our VPS. So sudo swap on, we're going to create a swap file. Sudo swap on, and then -- show. So when you get the result like that, let me just do it again. When you get the result, no result, that means that there is no swap file. If there was one, it would have shown you the swap file. Now let's create a swap file, and I'm just going to give it the same names because I don't want to retype or edit anything. And I'm just going to also make it 2 GB. You can make it 3 GB, 4 GB if you want to. It depends on what you want right now, but don't make it too big if your memory is low. 2 GB is okay for me, so I'm going to use that. And now we need to change permissions for the swap file that we've created. So this is the name of the file. This is the name of the swap file. You can change the name if you want to use whatever name you want to. You can even store it somewhere else if you want to. Okay, You can see this is currently being stored under root, under the root directory. If you want to change it, you can change it. So I'm going to copy that, and this just changes permissions for that file so that it has root level permissions. And then once we do that, this is going to make it a swap file, and this is going to turn the swap on. So what I can do is I can just copy the entire thing. As I said, I don't want to copy, I don't want to edit anything. That's why I'm just using the same name, and that's going to save me time. So I'm pasting that in there, and this is going to turn the swap on. And you can see now we do have a swap file for 2 GB. So right now, if I do sudo swap on show, it's going to show you that we have a swap file called my swap file, and the size is 2 GB. So the next step is, so right now, if you were to restart the system, it's not going to recognize that swap file. So what I need to do again is I will just need to add it into the FS tab, file. And in this file, it lists the memory for the system, so that when the system starts, it doesn't have to look for anything. Everything is already listed here. So I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to put that in there. So inside of this file, we need to open that file, and then we need to put this in there. So if you change the name of the file or the location of the file, make sure that you update yours as you need to. So just scroll down, okay? And once you get here, you can just paste it. And once you do that, you can do Control X, Y, enter, and that's going to save the changes. And now you don't need to do anything else. If you do free -H to see the memory that you have, you can see we do have memory, our physical memory of 1.9 gigs, and we have the swap memory of that. Okay, so that's that, and that's pretty much it for this. In the next video, let's see how we can install virtual main, and that's the last thing that we need to do. We're going to install the lamp stack of virtual main, and once we do that, we're going to see how we can run WordPress in virtual main. And as I said, we will be using Nginx. So I'll see you in that one. Hi, and welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to set up our Contabo server. We're going to create the account. If you want to get to this page on Contabo, just go to bizanosa.com/Contabo, and the link is in the description. I will choose this option. You can choose any option that you want. You can even choose any of these other servers. You can use any of this dedicated server or virtual dedicated server, whichever one you want to use. Go ahead and try it. Now for me, I want to try it with this, and this is the one that I'm going to use. I will just click there on select. These are the settings you're going to get. Now, initial contract period, there you can choose whichever you want. The region, just note that with the region, the monthly price is going to vary. So the monthly charge for your server is going to vary based on the location of the server. If I choose a data center in the United States, you can see the price, the monthly price is going to increase by that. If I choose one in Asia, the price is going to increase by $3. So just choose one that is most appropriate for you and your visitors. We have chosen this region of Germany. The next option is we need to choose an operating system. Okay, look at all the operating systems that are available here, and you can choose whichever one you want to use. For me, I want to use Ubuntu, but the best option for Ubuntu, if you don't want to use Ubuntu, you can always use Debian. If this was my server, I would definitely be using Debian, but I'm just using Ubuntu because I know most people prefer to use it, and that's why I want to use it here. You can see the Linux server operating systems that I recommend. The link will be in the description. Now I will start with Ubuntu 20.04 and always use an LTS version. If your VPS doesn't have 20.04, then just use the latest, the previous one, which is 18.04. But of course, you should probably use the latest LTS version of Ubuntu. And so we're going to use 20.04, which is the latest LTS version. And then This, we're going to leave that as it is. IP, you can add another IP. If you want to add an additional IP, it will be $4 a month. So your monthly charges will also increase by that based on the IP addresses that you add. So we're going to choose only one IP address. And then backup space, if you want to add backup, you can do that, and the prices are there. If you want your server to be managed by Contabo, you can see that's the monthly price. You can monitor your server and see how it's performing. If anything is happening that you don't want, any resources are being overused, you will get alerts for that. And you can use SSL if you want to add SSL, but please don't bother with this because you're going to install a control panel, and with most control panel nowadays you'll get Let's Encrypt, which is already set up in most control panels. So don't worry about SSL. You can set that up using the free control panel that you're going to install. And then setup, if you want to fast track the setup, you can choose this. This is going to make sure that your account is set up faster, but who cares, right? We are patient, we'll wait. And then how many servers do you want to set up? If you want multiple servers, you can choose the number of servers that you want to set up. Maybe you want to set up multiple, you can do that there. So that's pretty much it. Let me just confirm that everything is as I chose it. So Ubuntu there, I'll just go next. So you can see I will need to log in. So I already have an account with Contabo. If you don't have an account, just go ahead and create yours. And if they ask you for any details to verify your identity, just send them something. You can send them anything that has your actual physical address on it, like a billing, any form of billing that you have, water bill or an electric bill. You can send that. You can just scan it and send it, and it will be used to verify your identity. Private, individual, let's forget about that. I want to log in. I'm already a customer. So if you want to log in, in future, if you want to log into Contabo, you can just go to my.contabo.com. So let's come in here and do my.contabo.com. Enter. And that's going to redirect you to the login page for Contabo. So when you're here, you can just click here, log in here if you're already a customer. I don't remember my password. I'm going to reset mine here. So just log in and we'll meet in the next screen. Log in here. Let's see. So once I reset my password, let me come back and log in here. Okay, so I'm logged in. If you have a coupon code, just click there and add one. That's it. You'll see the amount you should pay, and I will just order and pay. I will just wait for them to finish provisioning the server, and as soon as it's provisioned, what's going to happen is you're going to get all the details that you need to log into your server. You're going to receive them in your email. Everything that you need will be sent to your email. And before this happens, let's say your account is new, what they will need, or what they may need, is some kind of document just to prove yourself. Okay, so as I said, if they ask you for anything to prove your physical address, just send any kind of billing. You can send an electric bill, water bill, any kind of bill that has your physical address on it, and they will use that to verify you. And as soon as you're verified, they will create your account and they will create your server, and all the details will be sent to you. If you don't want to deal with all this verification stuff, just choose a VPS in America. You can choose something like Valtra. That's one that I use a lot, and I can definitely recommend them. They have very fast servers, even though their offers are not as good as Contabo. So let's just wait and see if it's going to get provisioned for me as soon as possible. As soon as you log into your Contabo account, once they have sent you all the details, you'll see your servers here. Any VPSs that you have, any services that you have with Contabo, you can just click there and you'll see the details for all the servers listed. And you can also look at the VPSs that you have right there. They will be listed here. If you did choose VDS, then you can look at that as well. Right now, there isn't much I can do. Therefore, I'm just going to wait for an email from Contabo, and once it comes, we can begin setting up the server in the next video. So what I'm waiting for is an IP address, a root user, and a password. So once all that is set up for me, I can start setting up my server. And as I said, we're going to use this post to set up our server. Okay, so the link for this will be in the description. If it's not there, just remind me and I will add it. Or you can just go to Google or Bing and search for Bizanosa Ubuntu server setup, and you're going to find this post. Okay, so for me, I'm going to use Git Bash to set up my server instead of using Party. Okay, you can see this is Party. I'm not going to use Party. I'm going to use Git Bash. So you can just use terminal if you're on Mac, and you can use terminal as well if you are on Linux. So I will see you in the next video when we start setting up the server. I'm just waiting for the details from Contabo. All the details I need will be sent to my email as soon as the server is set up for me. So if you don't want to deal with all this waiting process from Contabo, you can use a different VPS, and American VPSs usually don't have this wait period. An example is DigitalOcean, Vultr. I've used both, and you can use them if you want to. If you want to set up a server just to try something, go ahead and use Vultr or DigitalOcean, but I do recommend Vultr because I used them for over 4 years and I still use them to this day. So I can definitely vouch for Vultr. Very reliable, very fast servers as well. It's entirely up to you to use whichever you want, but you can also see the VPSs that I recommend. I will leave the link in the description. Let's continue in the next video. So I've just received all the login data for my Contabo server. So what I got are the IP address, server type, the VNC, IP, and port. So VNC can be used to access your server remotely, and then the VNC password as well. And then you're going to get the username, and the username by default is root, and you're going to get a password for the root user and the type of operating system that you set up. You're going to get all of this in your Contabo first email. So if your account is new, you're also going to get your Contabo login details, and you can use that to log into your Contabo dashboard. We want to log into our server, and now that we have all the details, we can do that. We are interested in VPS control because we did set up a VPS. If you don't know which IP address you're working with or which is which, just go to your email address and look at the IP address that has been sent there. So you'll see the operating system, and if you are not sure, you can also come here under services. All right, so if you want to log into your server, the first thing you want to do is make sure that you restart your server. So the server will be restarted, and as soon as you do that, give it some time and just copy this, our IP address. We have the IP address, we have the user, our user is root, and we have the password that was sent for root, and you can find that in your Contabo email. To log in, so on Windows, I'm going to use Git Bash. You can download Git Bash for free and install it. If you are on a Mac or Linux, you can use terminal to follow along. So just search for Git. If you're on Windows, that is, search for Git, download, and then click on that. You want to download it for Windows. Since you're on Windows, you're probably following along on Windows. Choose Windows and install it. And once you install it, it's going to come with everything we need. And we're going to use Git Bash for this tutorial. Once you install it, just come back to Windows and then search for Git. We want to work with Git Bash. You can see there's Git GUI and there's Git CMD, but I only want to use Git Bash. To log in, type SSH, and the user is root at the IP address. So with this, I think you can paste. Let's see how you can paste. That is at root at, and then you can paste, and you can do shift insert to paste. And as soon as I do that, it's going to ask me for the password, and you can see it's asking me to authorize this into my hosts file. I'm going to type yes to affirm that, and it will be added to my hosts file. So it will be a known host on my computer, and I can access it without any problems. We need to add the password, so you can paste it in here by doing shift insert. If you just do that, you can paste using shift insert, yes, and you won't see the password as you type it in or as you paste it in. So just press enter, and if it is correct, you should be logged into your server. There we go. That's how to log into your Contabo server. Of course, the first thing you want to do is you want to update your server. So since we are still using root, I can just do apt update, enter. Let's see if there are any updates. All right, so you can see 4 packages can be upgraded. So let's do apt upgrade to upgrade. Enter. Then Y, enter. So just let it update, and that will be pretty much it. So you've seen how you can set up your Ubuntu server on Contabo and then log into your Ubuntu server VPS if you want to start setting it up. So just remember that we are going to start using this post to set up our server. So there we go, our updates are done. If you want to log out of your server, you can just do exit, and that's going to log you out of your server. Okay, so let's continue in the next video. And in the next video, what I want us to do is I want us to come in here and we are going to create a new sudo user. The link to this post is in the description. There we go. We're going to do this in the next video. Let's continue doing an Ubuntu initial server setup. And in this video, we're going to create a new sudo user so that we don't have to use the root user in upcoming videos. In upcoming setup, we will not have to use the root user. To create a new user, you will just use that command. You can find the link to this post in the description. Add user, and then that's the name of the user. You can call it whatever you want to call it. Let me just copy this because I really don't want to type. I will come back to git bash. I will call my user new user 21. Enter. And then you need to add a password for your new Ubuntu user. We're going to give them a strong password. Retype the password. Okay, so the password has been updated successfully. So I'm just going to press enter until I'm done with all of this. Y, and then enter. Okay, so is the information correct? Yes. So let me just clear the screen once again. So once we've created the new user, the next step is for us to make that user into a sudo user. So we can give them sudo privileges, and to do that, we are just going to copy this. This is going to give them sudo privileges so that they can run the sudo command. If they need to do anything that the root user normally does, they'll just add sudo to it and they will be able to do whatever command that is. I'm going to paste in that. The user that we created was new user 21. I'll press enter, and that's going to give them the sudo privileges. Let me open up a new git bash window, and we're going to try and log in with our new user. I will open a new window of git bash. We can just do SSH that, and now instead of logging in as root, let's log in as the new user. New user 21. So what you want to do is you want to test if this user actually has the sudo privileges. Enter the password that you set up for your user. There we go. We're logged in as the new user that we've set up, and that is evident there. You can see we're logged in as that user. Now the next thing is let's try and see if we can use sudo. Now that we've given this user the sudo privileges, let's test if we can use sudo. So I'm just going to do sudo apt update and sudo apt upgrade -y. So this is just to try and update the server, and if they can do this, then they can use sudo privileges in all the upcoming commands that we're going to do. So enter. The first time that you use the sudo command, you need to add a password for the user. So the password that you created for this user, add that. And there we go. Since I can see that this command is running without any problems, it means that we can use sudo to do everything that we need to do, and we no longer need the root user. From now on, everything that you do, use this user that you created. For me, this is a user. For you, it will definitely be different. Okay, so that's pretty much it for this video. In the next video, let's see what you need to do. Now, the next step is for us to set up SSH. So I'm going to set up SSH authentication using Git bash, and I'm going to use this part to do that. So I will see you in the next video when we get here. Hi and welcome back to another video. And in this video, what I want us to do is I want us to set up SSH authentication for our Ubuntu server. So if you want to log in using SSH keys, then this video is for you. The post that I will use for this is this, and you'll find the link in the description. And even if you don't, just go to my website and you can search for this title. Okay. If you're on Windows, follow with this post. If you're using a Mac or you're using Linux, then come to this other post, generate SSH keys and use them to log into your CentOS Rel Debian server. This is for Mac and Linux users. Okay, it's a very long post, but it has everything that you'll need, to set up your server, to set up SSH authentication on your server. And as well, you can come to bizanosa.com and search for the post here, or you'll find the link in the description below. I'm going to use this since I'm on Windows, and I'm just going to scroll down up to the part where I have this thing for SSH authentication. And you can even follow along with the video. If you just click there, it's going to take you to this timestamp on YouTube where you can watch how I did it on a Debian server. Debian and Ubuntu, almost the same thing, so it doesn't really matter. It's still going to work on your Ubuntu server. Let's start. And since I'm on Windows, the first thing I want to do is I want to create a folder, and that folder is where I'm going to store my keys. If you have Git bash installed on your Windows, you're going to have this folder. If you can't see it, just enable hidden folders on your Windows and you're going to see it. I'm going to create a folder and I'm going to call it Ubuntu server so that we can just differentiate them. So all our SSH keys will be stored inside here in our root directory, and this is just the root directory. Okay, the root directory is your username. On your Windows, your username, you can get to your root directory. If you go to your C drive, if you go to your local disk drive, and then you go to users, now your username, that will be your root directory. And instead of using this link, the tilde, this just replaces that with your root directory. Okay, so that's for Git bash, and even on Linux it's like that. So if you come here under SSH, you're going to see that I do have these different folders. These are some tutorials I've done in the past. That's why they're here. We're going to create a new one for our Ubuntu, and this is where we're going to store the keys, the private and the public key for our Ubuntu server. So I'm going to call it Ubuntu server. Let me just remove the space. Okay, so once we create the folder, so we've created the folder, we're going to generate our keys, and we're going to generate it inside of the folder we've created. Okay, so to generate your keys, this is how we're going to do it. We're going to use that, and this is just the command that tells the system to generate a new key. And we're going to generate a key with this type, and the type for our key is going to be an RSA key, and the bytes for our key is going to be 4096. You can create 2048 if you want to, but we're going to do 4096, and this is just a comment. You can even leave that out if you don't want to. Okay, and then this is where we want to store our key. So we're going to store our key there. This is going to be the name of our key. Okay, two keys are going to get generated. We're going to generate a public key, and we're going to generate a private key. A public key is going to have this name plus.pub, and you're going to see it once we've generated it. So let me just copy this, and I'm going to copy that and put it, and I'm going to put it inside of this txt file so that I can just paste in things without having to type them. So SSH key gen, this, we don't need to change anything there. I'll just leave that as it is. That's just a comment. You can change. This is going to be treated as a comment. You can just add it. It can even be something that reminds you of this key. So SSH and the folder, what was the name of that folder? The name of the folder for our key was Ubuntu server. I'm going to copy that. And that's going to be the folder inside of .ssh, paste, and then we can just call it that. Okay, it doesn't really matter, right? Or we can just call it Ubuntu or whatever. This is going to be the name of our key. You can call it whatever you want. You can even remove that bit. You can call it anything that you want. You get the point. So I'm going to copy this. This is going to generate our key, and it's going to generate both keys. So let's come back into Git Bash where we already logged in. Please note that you need to do this on your local computer. You're supposed to generate your key on your local computer. The folder where you're storing your keys will be on your local computer. So generate this on your local computer. Even if you're on Linux, make sure you remember that on the other end if you're following the other post. And I can log out, or I can just open a new instance of Git Bash, and then I'm going to paste that. Remember, we're doing this on our local computer. So the name of our key, the key will be stored inside of that folder, and we're generating a 4096-bit key because Ubuntu 20.04 supports that. All right, so the key is being generated, but you're being asked for a passphrase. So make sure you enter a passphrase, which is going to be a password for your key. So every time you need to log in with your key, it won't be automatic. You'll first of all get asked to add your passphrase. So you can add that, but since I'm just doing a demo, I'm not going to add it. I'm just going to skip. But make sure you add one, and make sure it's one that you can remember, because if you forget it, you will not be able to log in, and you may have to do a few resets on your server just to make sure that you can access it once again. So I'm going to press enter, and I'm going to enter again. So once I press enter, the key will be generated, and you can see that we've generated 2 keys. Okay, if you read that, you'll see that we have 2 keys now. We have the private and the public key. The .pub key, this is a public key, and the other one is a private key. So I can just copy this and put them together with this. Once we generate the key, we need to add them to our server. We have generated our 2 keys. The next step, let's add our keys onto the server. So add the public SSH key to your Linux server. So by the way, you can use this for any server that you're using, whether you're using CentOS, you're using Red Hat, or even the new ones, Alma Linux, Rocky Linux, Debian. You can follow with this post, and it's going to work for any of those Linux servers. So let's add the private key. Let's add the public key to our server. Let me just copy this, and then we're going to replace things as we need to. Copy it here, and then I'm going to explain it. So this is going to add our public key to the server. So SSH copy ID is going to add our key to the server, and this is just telling us the identity of the key that we want to use. So the path to the public key, and then for the user that we want to add it for. So here you're going to add your IP address plus the user that you created, not for the root. Add this for the user that you created, and the user that I created was new user 21. And then I will add my IP address later. So SSH copy ID, the path to the key. Now I will copy this because I know that my key is inside here. Both my keys, if I go into that folder, Ubuntu server, you can see we have our public key and the private key. This is the one that we need to add into our server, and we're going to add it. Since this is the name of our key, I will copy, and I will replace that with this, because this is a path to our key. And then just remember that with .pub is a public key, without .pub is a private key. So let me add .pub because we need to add the public key to our server, not the private. All right, I can just copy this and add this to our server. I'm still doing this on my local computer. If you see this, this is my local computer. So I'm going to paste that. I'm going to paste. Okay, I must have copied that line. I shouldn't have. Let me come back, and I will paste this. Okay. So this is going to add our key to our server. But first of all, we need to add our IP address there. Let me go to Contabo and find my IP. After adding my IP, I will just press enter, and I'll be asked to log in as this user so that I can add my key. So just remember the password for the new user that you set up, because in a moment we'll be asked to log in. So it's adding the details that we need. Okay, so we need to add the password for that, for the user that you created, so that you can log in and add the public key. Just like that, you have now set up SSH. You've now set up SSH authentication for your Ubuntu server. You can see one key has been added, but I still need to do one thing before I try to log in. Let me come back to where I'm logged in into my server. So this now I'm doing this on my server where I'm logged in. Let me just press enter to see if I'm still logged in. Okay, yeah, I'm still logged in. We want to change the permissions for the key that we've added, because on Linux, if you don't add the correct permissions, you will not be able to log in with those keys. We need to change the permission for the SSH folder, and we need to change the permission for the SSH authorized keys. Now this is where the key has been added. That's why we are changing it to root level permission. Now this is a folder. Okay, this is a file, and we can combine two. So this is like combining two commands. So we could have easily just have pasted in that, and then once this has been done, you come in and you paste that, but you want to do this in one line. So I'm just going to copy this entire thing. I will bring it back to where I'm logged in, because I need to change permissions for those two items. Press enter, and of course you need to add the sudo password, the password for this user. Since there is no error, there is no output, that means that the permissions have been changed, and you can actually look, if you can actually see the permissions for that. Okay, if you just do ls-la, you'll see the list of all the files, but I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to do that. You can just do that to see, and you'll see that the permission has been changed. Now this is very important, because if you don't do this, you'll never be able to log into your server. Okay, once you've changed the permission, this is now the next important thing. You have to change ownership for that file to the user that you created, because if you don't, that file is now owned by root, and this user needs to access that file so that they can log in. They need to access the public key that was added there. Right now it is at 600. This is a root level permission. Okay, for you to access this, you need to have sudo privileges, or you need to be root. We have to change the ownership for that file into the new user that we created, because if we don't do that, we won't be able to log in. We will never ever be able to log in. So let's just come in here and paste that in there, and I need to copy the user that I created. Make sure it's the user that you created, and where there's Joe, just replace that. So this is a group of Joe. Paste the group of Joe, and then the user of Joe, you give it the user that you created, and then of course the home directory folder, you want it to be this guy. So everything inside there, you're giving permission to this guy. You're giving ownership to this fella, this new user. Okay, you're giving ownership to the group and to the user for anything inside of this, and the public key that we added is inside of this folder. So let's go back to git bash. I will paste that in there, press enter, and as soon as I do this, now I will be able to log in via SSH. Let me open up a new git bash instance. Okay, so let's try to log into our server using the SSH keys. Okay, let me come back to this place, and we're going to test our SSH authentication by trying to log in. So I'm just going to copy this, copy that. I can explain what they do. All right, so you remember initially we logged in as SSH user at IP, and that was it. Okay, and then we were asked for a password. Right now we need to add the user server IP and an identity for a key. Okay, this tells the system that you want to log in using a key with this identity. Okay, so the identity for our key, we can just copy that right here, because our key was generated as that, and I'm just going to paste that in there. Now the server IP, I will take that, copy. Let me just remove everything here, paste. So I'm going to add the IP address once I copy it from Contabo. So let me just copy all the way up to here. Copy. Now the way that I've shown you how to set up SSH is a really nice one, because you can create multiple keys for different servers. If you do it any other way, you're probably going to have problems if you try to create other SSH keys. Now let's come here where we're not logged in, and I'm going to paste this. And remember, I haven't added my IP address. As soon as I add it, I will be logged into my server because I did not add a passphrase. If you added a passphrase while you are generating the key, you'll need to enter your passphrase. So let me just go back, because I need to enter my IP address there. Paste. So that's the private key that we want to log in with. Remember, the public key was added on the server. The private key is now the one we're using to log in. So if I press enter, I should log in automatically. And you can see for me, I was logged in automatically because I did not add a passphrase. However, if you added a passphrase, which you probably most definitely should do, then you'll need to enter the passphrase as soon as you press enter. Now let's go back, and the last thing that I want to do is I want us to disable the root user and the password authentication, and I want to do this in this video. So I'm just going to copy this. So what we're doing here is we're going to make it such that people cannot log in with the key without our key. They have to log in using a key. So if you don't have a key, you won't be able to log in, and we're also going to disable root login. So let's do that in the SSH configuration file. So if I do that, enter. Okay, now we are here on the SSH file. What I need to look for is I need to change two things here. First of all, I need to change permit root login to no, and I need to change password authentication also to no. So let me just go and search for them. So I'm using Nano. You can see we are editing using Nano. So with Nano, I can just copy this and then I can search for it. So if you want to search for anything on Nano, just press Ctrl W, and then since I'm using Git bash, I can just do shift insert to copy, to paste I mean. And then when I press enter, it's going to look for that. And you can see permit root login has been set to yes. So we don't want root to be able to log in. So we want to set this to no. And we're going to delete yes. And then the next thing that I want us to look for is password authentication. So let me just copy password authentication from here. And we're going to search for it in the SSH config file. So once again, let's do Ctrl W, and then I'm going to do shift insert to paste, enter, and you can see password authentication has been commented out right there. It has been commented out, and we need to uncomment it. I'm just going to uncomment it, remove the hash sign, and that's going to uncomment it. And then we need to change the value to no, and then I will delete yes. Okay, so once I do that, I can just do Ctrl X. Now just note that there are other things you can change in this file. If you want to be really strict, you can change lots of things in these files. Okay, so maybe you want to reduce the number of times somebody can try to log in. You can reduce that there. The maximum sessions, how many people do you want to be logged in simultaneously? You can change that there. Just make sure you don't make things too strict, because you might end up blocking yourself out. Okay, just Google stuff before you change anything. Google stuff and see the implication of the changes you're going to make. So I'm just going to do Ctrl X to exit out of Nano, Ctrl X, and then Y to accept the changes, and then enter to exit out completely. The next thing is I need to restart SSH, and I don't want to type this, so I'm just going to copy it from here. SSH, let me use sudo service SSH restart. I will do shift insert to paste, press enter. And as soon as I do this, now if somebody tries to log in, they will not be able to log in as the root user, and they will not be able to use the password. So that was the objective of this video. The objective was very clear, and it was to set up SSH authentication for our server. And the link to this post is in the description, so you don't have to worry about that. You can just come, you can even come here on my site and you can search for this post if the link is not there, but I'll make sure I add it for you. So that's it for this video. Make sure you follow everything as I've done it, because if you don't, you may end up making various mistakes that will have serious ramifications, such as you not being able to log into your server. So make sure you follow everything step by step. Just be patient and follow along step by step. These things are very easy once you get used to doing them. Okay, so just make sure that you follow along step by step. And that's it for this video. In the next, we're going to do the final thing, and the final thing is creating a swap file in our server. And I'm just going to use this. Okay, this is for Debian, but I'm just going to use this because it's still going to work on Ubuntu. So that's the last thing that we're going to do before we install our control panel. After that, we're going to install the control panel, and we'll see how to add websites and how to run your website, work with DNS and so on. So that's it for this video. I'll see you in another one. A swap file is a file that is used as memory when the actual physical memory runs out on your server. So if you have a low memory VPS, you definitely need to create a swap file. So on a VPS, you don't have access to your disks, and therefore a swap file is the next best thing. You can also create a swap disk, but of course we want to create a swap file since we are on a VPS. If you are using Contabo, you can see that you get 8 GB of RAM for that, and you get 16 for that. So you can choose whichever plan you want, and you see that you probably won't need the swap file, but I'm just doing this for the benefit of people who are following on a different VPS. Maybe you're using Vultr or DigitalOcean, then in that case you probably need to add a swap file so that you can have memory that will be used in case your server runs out of memory. Just as a caution to anybody following along, that this is how it should be. This image, you see this image, this is how it should be. My website was stripping out these double hyphens. Okay, these are double hyphens. If you need to follow along, you'll need to know that. So let's just copy this. I'll just copy this only, sudo swap on. So the link to this page is in the description. You don't need to type this stuff. So I will paste that in there, sudo swap on, and that's hyphen show. And you can see, okay, we do have a swap file already. So you can see Ubuntu on Contabo has already created a swap file for us. So this means that we do have a swap file. So we can just create another one, and I'm just creating this for the benefit of people that want to see how to create a swap file on their VPS if they don't already have one. So the first thing, this was just to see if we do have a swap file, and remember, these are 2 hyphens. Okay, step 1, we're going to create the file that will be used for swapping. Okay, so we need to create a file and allocate a size to that file. So I'll just copy these things without changing anything. I will just paste that in there, enter. Okay, now this file has been created. You can do ls-la, and you're going to see that in your root directory, there's a file called my swap file. Explaining it once again, that's the name of the file. Okay, so you can change the name to whatever. You can call it my swap file, you can call it the new swap file, you can even call it file py, whatever you want to call it. And this is going to allocate the size for the file. So this is going to allocate 2 GB to this file. If you want to allocate 1 GB, just put 1 GB. If you want to allocate 4, put 4 GB. Okay, we've created the file and allocated that. Now the next step is we need to change the permissions for the file that we've created. So I'm just going to do that. And remember that you can create it inside another folder if you want to. That's okay. Okay, if you want to put it inside of another folder, that's okay. You can see here it is in the root directory. So let us change the permissions for the file. And once we change the permissions, we need to now make it a swap file, and we also need to to turn the swap on. So this is going to make it, and this is going to make the file a swap file, and this is going to turn it on, swap on. So I'm just going to do this in one line. Copy. I will paste that and then enter. And now our swap is on. Now the swap is on, yes, but if we restart the server, it's not going to recognize the swap file. So what we need to do is we need to add it inside of this file. And inside of this file, we're going to add that so that we can let the system know that that is a swap file that should be restarted with the system. So we're going to copy that. So any memory that we have, they're usually listed inside of this FS tab. And this is the one that usually tells the system when it restarts that these are the memories that we currently have. So let's just bring our cursor down, and we need to copy this. So if you change the name of the file or you change its location, make sure that is reflected in this. So for me, I'm just copying what is already here so that I don't have to type. Paste. And then I'll do Control X to exit out of Nano, and then yes, I'll enter Y because I want to accept the changes, and then I will press enter to accept the changes. Now, if I restart the system, our swap file will be there, okay? And even if I do sudo swap on show, remember sudo swap on show has 2 hyphens. Oh, but for me, let me just do sudo free dash h. This is going to show me all the memory that is available for me to use. So let's come back here. Sudo free dash h. This is going to show us all the memory that is available, and you can see our memory is that, and we still have that available memory. And our swap file, if you remember, for my server, I already had 2 GB of swap file, and I also created another 2 GB of a swap file. So I have a total of 4 GB of swap memory. That's why you can see I have 4 GB of swap memory, and it is unused because it is only used when this one runs out. As soon as you run out of memory, they will use your swap file. Your applications will all be moved to your swap memory. Okay, so that's what it's all about. So in this video, you've seen how you can create a swap file on Ubuntu, even though I used this guide that clearly states is for Debian. Even on CentOS, if you want to, even on Alma Linux, you can just follow this and it's going to create the swap file the same way. All right, so that's it for this part. In the next video, we're going to see how to install our control panel. And then once we do that, we'll see how we can work with DNS and then add websites. And we're going to see how we can add a WordPress website. We're going to see how you can change your host name on your server, on your Ubuntu server, and you can follow the same steps for Debian if you are using Debian. But I will be doing this on Ubuntu because this server is an Ubuntu 2004 LTS. So I will see you in that next video when we change the server host name. In this video, we are going to change the server host name, and I will be using Contabo for this example. If you're also using Contabo and you come here under reverse DNS management and we're interested in this IP, you'll see that the reverse PTR record is that, and we want to change this to something else that we can use. So you should definitely use an actual domain, and the domain should be one where your panel is installed. So if you're installing a control panel like HTTP Cyber Panel, it should give the domain for where it is installed there. To change the hostname on Ubuntu or Debian, I have this post here. You can just follow this post, and I will leave the link in the description. For the control panel, I will install it in a subdomain, panel1.javascriptbear.com. I want to change my hostname to that. The panel will be installed in a subdomain. You can install it in a full domain if you want to, but I choose to use a subdomain. Come back here, and you can see this is currently the first part of our host name. So we want to change that. Let's first of all see our host name. To check your host name, you can just do host name, and that is our full host name, and we want to change it. So if we come here You can change the host name. You'll need to edit it there. I want to change my host name to panel1 dot panel1.javascriptbear.com. So this is going to be my host name. So let's come back to the post, and I just need to edit this file and change it there. So if you go into this file, if you go into the hostname file, we'll see that our hostname is listed there and we can change it. If we come back to where we're logged into our server, make sure you've logged into your server. So I'm going to paste that in there. And you can see that's our host name. So the first thing I need to do is I need to remove this and replace it with this. So I'm going to copy this entire thing, and then I can just use my cursor. I'll just press delete and delete everything in there. The name of my server, I'll delete that there, and then I can paste. So if you want to paste here, and I'm using Git Bash, you can use Shift Insert to paste. If you're using Putty, you'll just right click to paste. If you're on terminal, I think it's Control Shift V. So just paste the way that your command line tool will allow you. So for me, I'll do Shift Insert. Then I will close Nano by doing Control X, and then accept the changes. Y to accept the changes, and then press Enter to exit out of Nano. So the next thing is to change this in our hosts file. So we've changed it in the host name. So the server knows the host name is that, the one we've added, but we need to reflect that in the system. So to do that, we need to change something in our hosts file. So copy, paste, enter, and you can see this is the one we need to change. Okay. And we also need to change that. Okay. So every instance of the old host name, we're going to change that with the new host name. And let's just come back and copy this. Copy the new host name, and we're changing this on Ubuntu, but this is going to work for you even if you're on Debian. So let me find my cursor, and I will just move my cursor to that point, and let me delete this name. And then I will add a space there, Shift Insert to paste. And then for this other one, since I'm using a subdomain, the first part of my host name will be what is here. But if you're using a full domain, just use the full name of your domain. And then let's scroll down again for IPv6. For IPv6, let's scroll down, and we're going to delete this one as well. And then we paste the new one. And for this side, it will be panel 1. So as I've said, for the part where I've put panel 1, if you're not using a subdomain, just put the full domain name there as well. Okay, so that's pretty much it. So I'll do Control X, Y, Enter. We need to restart the server.